Again, ignore what I have in my game. This is the prototype system. I'm going to show you what it's gonna look like in your game. So basically, we're looking at now is the power controller installation, and you're going to have one end, which is the 4-pin Molex pass through, and that's going to plug into the same yellow and black wires that go into this yellow and black wire. Here. And so you'll see this is my pass-through that's already plugged in. And so you would have your yellow and black wire. See, it's a yellow double wire and then a single black. And that's coming from the left side of the game here. And that has a looped black wire and a yellow and black. And this goes to the coin door right here. It wraps around and up to the door. I think it's for the bill acceptor. So you'll plug that in line, and then you'll have the wire coming off of it, which is right here, and that will go around already connected to your power control box. This is what's in the power control box. It's a little DC buck converter, but you'll have a nice cover on yours, and you'll have some tape on the back, which is not on this one. You'll be able to remove that tape and mount it up along the side here of the game, somewhere that works for you. In this area is fine. And then you're going to take the red connectors that came off of the different things you installed and plug them into here. Again, the right side here is the 6-volt, and that's going to be the single red connector that comes off of the wiring loom for the spotlights. That has the 4 females on one end and the 1 red male on the other end. Got to be careful about this. I'll make sure there's a tag on here that says spotlights or something like that, so you know that it matches up. And then the left side, those 2 female connectors, the red connectors there, one goes to the trough lighting and one goes to the backboard lighting. Doesn't matter which, they'll work either way. And those are your 3 red connectors. When you power this guy on, it's going to be set up to read the output voltage, which should say 6.3. That will be the voltage going out to the right side to the spotlights, and the left side will get the 12 volts that is coming in from that Molex connector, and that's what the LED strips need. If you need to mess with this converter at all, it will read out a couple different pieces of information. On the left side, you see this little power icon. If you stick a little pin down there and hit the button that's in there, it will just turn on and off the display. It won't actually stop power from going out of this box. It's just part of the box. The right side has a little voltage sign, and pushing that will switch between the input and the output voltage display. So basically, it will show you about 12 volts on the input side, and then if you push it again, it will show you the output, which should be about 6.3 volts. Now, these will be set up properly when they come to you. If there's any reason you need to adjust them, inside the box, you can just take the cover off. It's just sort of clipped on with some pressure points. And there will be a little potentiometer, little adjustment screw in there. And if you spin that, that will adjust the output voltage. Obviously, you want to make sure that anything coming off of this to the right side is disconnected, because if you adjust the voltage too high, it will burn out those lights. And I would suggest using a multimeter to test that side of the buck converter and DC voltage to make sure what's coming out of there is 6.3 volts. That should be the only thing that needs to come off of there. If for some reason you just decide to go with all 12 volt lights in the spotlights, then obviously you'll need to make sure that you have 12 volt bulbs installed in all of them, and then you can turn the buck converter up to 12 volts if that's what you want to do. But I would suggest not doing that. It's harder to find the 12 volt bulbs in the colors and sizes you want, and we've included the 6-volt bulbs, so that just makes it easier. That is basically it for the controller install. Again, you'll just mount it up on the side there, make sure everything's plugged in, and then you can power on your game. That should immediately give you spotlights because they will be powered by the constant 12 volt from the coin door and the LED lights for the trough and the backboard. The trough or the backboard lighting remote control does have a power option. So if we look at the remote control real quick, top right button is power. If your lights don't come on instantly, try the power button. They also may be dimmed all the way. And so these are the brightness and dimming controls. Obviously, these top grouping of buttons will set your color. So you have RGBW, where you can just choose to be a solid color, or you can choose any of these shades of those colors if you want to choose one of those preset shades. Some of the controls down here on the right and bottom let you do some like chasing and flashing, strobing effects, which I assume no one's going to really want. So you probably would ignore those. If you happen to have those turned on, you can push this button up here and that will turn them off. But these buttons are a little more interesting right here. Basically, if you want to set a custom color, which is not one of these already provided, you hit one of the DIY buttons, let's say DIY 1, and then you can use the red, green, and blue up and down arrows to adjust the color of the strip precisely. When you're happy with that, hit that same button again and it will store it in that slot, in one of those 6 slots. So you can have a couple different, 6 different colors stored, and you can switch between those pretty easily by doing that. The colors I don't believe are stored on the remote, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I haven't tested that, but either way, you're going to have 2 remotes. You can label them. For example, that one has like a B on it for backboard, and have them tied and used just to one of the IR receivers. But I believe they're not intrinsically tied to any one, so whatever one you point it at is the one it's going to control. So those are your controls there. Takes a little coin battery. Says the name of it right on there and how to open and replace it. Yours will be installed. If there's a little plastic tab there at the back, just pull it out to connect the battery. But you should be ready to go with that. So that's the basic installation. There should be nothing really else to do. Yeah, just do everything carefully and make sure you plug into the right locations. Zip tie everything up nicely. I would test it before you zip tie everything, and you can even incrementally test it. For example, on the controller, you can just plug in one of the lighting strips and power it on. If you have a 12 volt power supply, you can connect it up to this plug. You'll notice that the black and yellow come off of this side, so connect it up to those 2 right pins. Black is ground, yellow is positive. And then you can you'll see the buck converter power up, and you can plug in any of the 12 volt LED strips to that side, and then the spotlights to the right side. So you can just do one spotlight. You can just put one of these 4 connectors together up here and just have one group of spotlights on to test them. And you can plug them in incrementally just to test everything, or you can power it all up at once. Unless you've done something really screwy, nothing bad should happen, as long as you don't have the 12 volts going to the LEDs, or to the spotlights, not the LED strips. So yeah, that's it. Any questions, just let me know.